Hello world, I'm here today to talk about China and how I was wrong. So this isn't a huge flip from my previous view. Let me give a little bit of background. I first came to China in, I believe it was 2018. I came a few times maybe in 2019, but I wasn't really settled here. And I ended up leaving just before the outbreak of the pandemic. And I had a lot of opinions on China. I personally liked it. I enjoyed being here. I had my frustrations too as a foreigner figuring things out. China isn't always easy mode for all foreigners coming here, meaning it can be a little less English friendly than some places like Singapore or Malaysia and a few other, Asian countries. So you're gonna have struggles wherever you move because you gotta adapt to a new culture, adapt to new mindsets of people, a new living situation. And as a dude I think I was 24 the first time I ever came to China, and looking for prospects or things that I could do or the potential, people were saying back then like, oh yeah, China's booming. And part of this video I want to talk about how should people still come to China in 2025. I think absolutely. I think it's a better time than ever to come to China. So when I was here, there was a lot of influencers, even longtime Chinese influencers, and a lot of the rhetoric online started to change from neutral or, critique to straight out negativity. So rather than critiquing things or noticing things about culture that are different, it would just be very, sometimes politically charged and not in a positive way. It would be like, oh, this is bad no matter what. You'll still see people riding those coattails. They started as, sometimes influencers in China, and now they've already left, and they're still talking negatively about China. They'll probably do that to till the day they die because it's good for their brand. And I'm not saying that no one can have anything negative to say, but I just think it's a little intellectually dishonest when everything you say is negative. So I want to let you in on a few of the lies that I fell for, and maybe debunk a few myths. So when I was first here, this whole idea of anti-foreign sentiment started to arise 2018, 2019. And they're like, oh, foreigners are no longer welcome in China. Oh, should you come to China? No, go to Vietnam now because the golden age of China is over. I've heard this from multiple YouTubers, and I was like, okay, yeah, Vietnam is at a different stage in development, and I've been to Vietnam. I enjoyed it, but that doesn't take away from where China is. Oh, I felt like this was just an argument of people who had been here. They rode the wave and they wanted to go jump on a different one. So China developed a lot in that time. So a lot of the foreigners who have come to, play around here aren't exactly welcome anymore. So yeah, there might be that anti-foreign sentiment, meaning I'd say it's easier to come to China now because of new visa policies, but it's harder to just come and get a job willy-nilly under the table because the government cracked down on that as they should, and as it's been cracked down in many countries. But people see that and they're just like, oh, foreigners are no longer welcome. Oh, there's hostility. I rarely ever came to find any hostility when I was in China. Yeah, I'm sure a few people, I'm sure there's a Chinese person who's looked at me and doesn't like me on the street. Sure. I'd say most of the time, people are happy to help out. People are very hospitable towards foreigners. Even if they don't want to deal with you, they will. So I think this idea that, oh, Chinese don't see foreigners in a positive light, I think also it's just, honestly, I think this comes from a very westernized privilege where they want to come here and get treated a little bit better than people. And as it becomes more international and there's, more foreigners here and there's more global exposure, foreigners are not that special. And face it, guys, you're a dude from the West who came over here and you're no better than any Chinese citizen. And I don't know if they just have a hard time digesting this. I don't know if I want to pull it into race. Yeah, some white guys come here and they got a big chip on their shoulder. I'll tell the story of a few of them I met. I'll tell a few stories because I don't even want to use the word toxic, but it's really insidious. Like, they come here, they sometimes, and still today, I'm not going to say that they aren't polite to foreigners here. They come, people are polite, very hospitable, and they get this huge rock up their anus and think they're better than everybody. Like, oh, yeah, and they become very entitled. I've seen foreigners become very entitled throughout Asia very fast. I'm not going to say specifically what countries now, but I did find a general trend. So, I want to get into another myth too. So, I believe this myth, as I heard it on, I believe it was YouTube at the time, that you can't study advanced TCM in China. For those of you who don't know, TCM is traditional Chinese medicine. So, why can't you study this? Apparently, Chinese history hasn't been preserved, and all the books and knowledge has been burnt or destroyed. Okay? So you have to go to Japan or the island of Taiwan to study that. So you can't learn advanced levels of TCM in China. So I heard this, and I'll admit I'm guilty of regurgitating it, and that's part of the reason why I want to make this video. I recently looked it up. I've recently actually been in contact with some universities, and they do have TCM, advanced levels of TCM, and I'm actually considering studying it. More on that later. And I just believe this. I just ate it up. Oh, that's interesting. And, I propagated this myth. Not to a lot of people, but I probably told a family member or a friend. I've probably said it at least twice. And it's just something I took for granted. Yeah, I feel bad about that because I think these are bad actors. Maybe someone came up against an obstacle, or they didn't research it well, or for some reason they believed it, and it's just misinformation. Another thing I was wrong about is, at first I'm like, you know what? I started getting on the page of that. Oh, the time of China's over, the good time. Like, I always thought, like, I missed it. I'm like, because everyone was talking about China throughout the 2010s, and even before that, I wanted to visit China since more than 15 years ago. Like, when I was in high school, I thought it was interesting and just an interest in the culture. I always wanted to come to China. But when I say visit, I wanted to come and stay here for like an extended period of time, which I'm doing. And I felt like, oh man, I missed my chance. It's not like it used to be. And I sort of let my expectation of this I got in my own bubble and was looking online, and I let this expectation shape my reality. And you'll start to think that, please don't quote me on this, don't take me out of context here. You'll find people online, Chinese people, they're rude, they're whatever. It's just like, I don't find it so. And a lot of the gripes, Westerners, usually it's Westerners making this content, sorry to say, majority of them are. And, I'm technically a Westerner myself. I'm mixed, if any of you are curious. A lot of the gripes people have is they don't understand how countries develop, or the trajectory they're on, or how high populations develop. A lot of the things I see here, I see in countries like Egypt. And that's not to criticize any of them. It's just because Egypt has high population density. Like, in certain areas, it's just packed. And you see a lot of symptoms of high populations. Here in China, where the population is way higher than in Egypt, you see a lot of the similar symptoms. And then if you're coming from somewhere like Canada, fortunately, my journey kind of went, I lived in Canada a while, lived in Egypt, lived in Southeast Asia, then came to China. So I had a very gradual, if you want to say, I had a gradient of experience. And I think this already, I don't even want to say opened my mind. Fortunately, being from that mixed background, my mind was kind of just cracked open at a young age, and honestly, it was hard to digest. I was not able to understand Egypt when I first went there. I was not able to get Canadian culture, and I felt completely lost with all of it. Now that I'm older, I'm able to digest it, and I'm like, okay, that's why things are the way they are. So, you know what? I believe I do owe a lot of, Chinese people an apology. I don't think I ever said anything hateful. I did misunderstand China as a country and as a civilization. Now, looking into Chinese history, looking into current China affairs, I really understand things from a better perspective. Now, when I used to follow more of these online personalities, I always felt like they were missing something. I'm just like, yeah, they're coming from a very Western perspective. He has a point, but, and now I'm going to say there's probably a kernel of truth to what some of them say. I think it's gotten worse. I tried to recently go back and see where some of these people are today, and it is primarily negative. I'm not saying that they don't have a case or you're not allowed to criticize China, but for God's sakes, like at least like stop with the propaganda. There are some straight up Western propaganda channels that will just say total BS, social credit score, like the whole Jordan Peterson where he was talking about the social credit score. Not only can the guy, I have so much to say on that guy, and I'll validly critique him because I have read his books, and the guy's hugely misinformed about that and many other things. So yeah, I'd say I was wrong that over the time that I was away from China and came back even, I think things have gotten better. I was wrong in the sense that it's not, the golden age of China I think is not over. I think we're in it or even continuing to go into it further. I think the best, I don't want to say it's the best time, how would I know? I think a great time to actually come to China is in 2025, maybe 2026 as we're coming up on that. And I hope a lot of you do more research. I think a lot of Westerners tend to hear China bad, and they think that's the be all end all. China bad, communism bad. It gives me a headache sometimes listening to, these are non-arguments. I'm not going to say listening to those arguments. I highly suggest that a lot of you come to visit China and spend some time here. But again, I got a critique of that too, because if you come and just visit China, I feel like you'll come here on vacation. That's great. But if you come and just observe, on a vacation through the lens of a vacation or a quick stay, you're not actually going to understand how things work. It's great for a visit, but the problem with streamers and influencers is a lot of them are here, they highlight only certain parts, and a lot of them looked at a skewed lens where even some people who are here 15, 10 years, it's just like, they still haven't shed the Western dogmatism, and it prevents them from actually looking at China. And I'm talking about China now, but I feel like this is with many countries. I've met a lot of people who visit Egypt as well, and they'll see something as backwards. And yes, there are a lot of backwards things in Egypt. I'm going to be the first to say that. I'm going there in like a week to visit again. And nothing's perfect, but this idea that West is best, this Western supremacy or elitist view, oh my God, like get that out of here. It's over. There was a guy who literally said the other day, and he was polite about it, but he's just like, yeah, China's a couple decades behind the West. It's just like, I don't know where you live. I don't know where you've traveled. But China's not a couple decades behind the West. It's way more convenient here. And in that time that I left in like 2018 till now, it kind of grinds my gears a bit that I still see some people who used to live in China years ago. They're like, yeah, China's like this. It changed a lot. Like I would say in my time away until now, the air quality's got better. Like in the cities I've gone to. Spaces have got greener. I'm not going to pull up like, okay, this is government facts of this, or this is what the statistics say. I'm going to tell you on the ground that I see a lot more green spaces. I see a lot of development projects. Yeah, things have changed a lot in half a decade. And I didn't see that much change when I went back to Canada after years. Like it was, Oh yeah, yeah. This is new, but I feel like things progress fast here, and I think if you're looking at China, you need to come here with more than just an open mind. You need to come here and learn from the ground up, like what it's like. Particularly the Western lens is going to throw you off. I think an advantage that I had is I lived in Southeast Asia. And that gave me a tremendous advantage of, coming here and looking at things differently. And another advantage was, I spent like half of my childhood in Egypt. And there are parts of Egypt where, they're so underdeveloped that, I didn't come here as a snob. Like people are like, oh my God, they still do this. And I'm like, I still see a little bit of, should I say kinship? I'm just like, oh yeah, we still do that in Egypt too. And, it might be for better or worse. But yeah, I've let this rant go on for a while. I just want to say, don't believe everything you hear. Come to your own conclusions. And also, if you are someone who already has your mind made up, you may have been here. If you ever have a chance to come back, or you're ever coming back, crack that old lens, give it a second chance, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But hey, I was wrong and I stand corrected. I am blown away with how things work here. And you know what? I enjoy every day that I've been here. I've been here again for over like a month. And I'm going to be here, for an extended period of time. I'm hoping to, have a long and healthy stay here in China. And I hope any of you who are considering it, come, like 2025. Now, I realize I have a privileged lens at things. Before I close this out, I want to say I live in one of the first-tier cities. I live in Shanghai, okay? So, it might be different than the countryside or what people talk about when they're like, okay, I went to this specific, hyper-specific location. I mean, I can find buttholes in a lot of countries or underdeveloped places, Sometimes the wealth doesn't trickle down. I live in probably one of the most convenient cities in the world. At least I think so. And even these cities I've gone to that aren't first tier, sometimes new first tier, we'll get into that. They've been more developed, more convenient, better infrastructure than Canada. And I've been to the US, I've been to Canada, I've been around Europe. I'd say for the most part, I think China has better infrastructure. Definitely than North America. Way better than Egypt, for example. No offense, Egypt. Yeah, you need to step your game up, and I wish you do. Europe had some pretty good infrastructure in certain places. I'm going to close that out. Thank you if anyone has actually observed this rant. And I'm not going to cut it down. I'm going to leave it at the 18 minutes. And if you made it to the end, thank you. And see you soon.